We got. All right, hello, welcome to the West Ham Boxing Show. Hello, Aaron.
Hello, Dave. You all right?
Um, doesn't help if you have the YouTube thing open in the background as well. Aaron, should we start the first ever episode of the West Ham Boxing Show in Liverpool at the M&S Bank Arena? Jack Catterall's points decision, unanimous decision over Jorge Linares. What was your thoughts on the fight?
Kind of what I expected. Started off pretty cagey. Catterall controlled it behind the jab. Linares, as he is tough as ever, tried to give a good account of himself, but Father Time's caught up.
I gave Linares the first and the last round. I thought 118, 110.
Yeah.
High score cards. The judges went slightly closer, 117, 111, 116, 112 twice. I thought in order to get 116, 112, you had to give Linares every benefit of every close round.
Not for me. I had the rounds Catterall won, he clearly won. And any up for debate, I feel that Catterall was the busier. I feel he was forcing it a lot more. And anytime Linares tried to come forward, Catterall just negated him and put him back in his place. It was a good performance from Catterall. Would have liked to have seen him push for the knockout a bit more, though. And I think that has been a criticism of him coming out of the fight. But apart from that, more or less punch perfect.
I thought the opening two rounds, a younger, more peak Linares would have gone a little bit more on the offensive, because one thing I did notice with Catterall's performance is he was leaning over his front foot a lot, and he was leaving his chin out. He was off balance, and I think although there was a lot of talk after the fight, and we'll come to the post-fight stuff when we finish talking about the boxing, but it was he was leaving his chin out, and I think if Linares had caught him with something close to a peak Linares shot, it would have been a very difficult night for Jack Catterall.
Yeah, definitely agree with that. Again, like I said at the start, I think Father Time just caught up with him. He wasn't able to do what his head could do. His body wasn't following his head, and it made for an easier night for Catterall. Everyone expected Catterall to win. It was just disappointing we didn't see more of the Linares of old.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's probably going to be the end of Jorge Linares at this point. I can't imagine Linares is going to fight on from here.
No, rumours are he has actually retired. He has come out and said that he will be retiring. But with these old dogs, who knows? If there's some money somewhere, he might come back for one more. But I think it is time to call it a day.
I agree. So the post-fight interviews, Catterall said that Ari still carried some of that power. He did say that he knew he was in with a legend, and he knew he was in with a tough opponent. What next for Catterall?
Has to be the Taylor rematch. Whether they can get it done or not, who knows? But have been a massive Josh Taylor fan for years. Catterall won their fight. Catterall won the fight, and we need to have a rematch. There's a lot of talk on social media about I'm gonna do it, but they can't seem to get the deal done at the minute. The weight's very important as well. I think Taylor would want it a bit heavier, but is that a ploy to get away from Catterall? That's what we don't know. Josh Taylor hasn't looked great recently. got destroyed by Teofimo Lopez, who obviously is one of the best in the world. But I feel like Josh Taylor needs sort of to re-find himself again, because he looks like he's on the downward turn. What's your thoughts?
I think Taylor needs to go to 147, and I
Yeah.
don't think Jack Catterall's ready to follow him up yet. Is my hunch. There was talk in the aftermath of the catch weight. Catterall called him out, made it quite clear that if he had a choice between Lopez, the winner of the Haney Prograis fight, or Taylor, that he'd chase Taylor. But I can't see how that fight. I think weight's too much of an issue for that fight to happen. If it happens at 143, 144, I think Catterall's going to come in quite small, and then normally with fighters, once they go up in weight, they struggle to come back down.
Yeah.
So that 3 or 4 pounds on Jack Catterall could seriously harm his chances of a world title further down the line. Back at 140 pounds.
Yeah, and I feel as well, it's the sort of fight that needs and deserves a title on the line. After the controversy of the first fight, after the talk since then, to do it at catch weight for the fans, it deserves a bit more than that. But the problem is the weight. Where do they go with it? Taylor ain't coming down to 140 again.
No. If there was going to be a rematch, it should have been an immediate rematch. And I'm not normally a fan of immediate rematches. I think normally it's because the home fighter didn't get the decision they wanted. So we see it again, we run it back, and promoters going to overdrive trying to convince us that the first fight was the greatest fight of all time and we all need to see it again. In this case, I think there was enough controversy to merit a rematch. And it should have happened, and it didn't happen. And I think it's probably too far gone now, certainly in terms of Taylor's career. And I don't know how many fights Taylor's got left either, to be fair. I think once he steps up to 147, that's a whole new division for him. That's going to be a whole lot of punch power that he's not faced before. And he's going to run into, if he wants to be a world champion in 147, you've got Terence Crawford holding all the belts currently, but then behind them you've got Boots Ennis, you've got Virgil Ortiz. Dare I say Conor Benn will fancy his chances in that mix. It's very difficult to look at Josh Taylor and see him ever winning another world title.
Yeah, unless he's. So it's a shame. Someone of his talent, I feel like his decline's just been so quick, and it feels like since the Catterall fight, that's it. And I think he feels like he needs the Catterall rematch, but I also think there is a chance he'll get beat again. Although he got given the win, we all know that he lost the fight. So if he loses twice to Catterall, who he says he doesn't rate, it's game over. Yeah,
I agree. I'd be interested to see if Catterall, if that fight doesn't get made. I think Catterall Teofimo Lopez has got some mileage in it. I mean, that's a fight that would potentially be quite exciting going forwards.
Yeah, definitely. But again, you have to make Teofimo a clear favourite for it. But Catterall's improving all the time, as he showed against Josh Taylor. He can mix it in there with the best. And at the time Catterall beat Taylor, although again not officially, no one thought it was possible.
No, true. There was quite a bit of discourse after the fight. I was a fan of Bellew to a degree as a fighter. As a pundit, he was very bullish and arrogant in his stance that he does love a Scouse fighter, doesn't he? And he seemed, and I I agree with Barry Jones. As much as Belly tries to talk over him, I think Prograis. I don't think Prograis beats Haney. Let's get that right. When they talk about the Haney Prograis winner, they're talking about Devin Haney, and I make him right that Devin Haney would beat Jack Catterall.
Yeah. I think pretty comfortably as well. I think Haney's just. I think at the moment what we've got, well, there's so many good fighters around between say 140 and 154. There's a lot within the mix. I think we've got two stages of world class and elite. I think Catterall at the moment has proven he is on the verge of being world class, if not already there. The likes of Haney, Prograis, they're in the elite bracket. It'll be interesting to see what happens with Haney and Prograis and where they go next. The winner of that fight, who do they go for next? Because they're going to hold everything between them.
I think the logical fight that we'll see next year will be Haney against Shakur Stevenson.
Has to be
in the unification. I think that's the logical move for the division. Is Catterall in a fight at that level? Is he going to be? Because there was criticism after the fight that Catterall was too safety first. He said he felt Linares' power. It's very hard to see where or how, if Catterall keeps the safety catches on against 38-year-old Jorge Linares, how he's going to let his hands go in a fight against one of the current champions.
Yeah, I think he doesn't get. I don't think he gets the choice. Like you said, 38-year-old Linares, he was able to control the fight. He was able to wait for Linares to come in and get his shots off. He's not going to have the choice against your Haney's, Prograis, etc. They will dictate the fight, and we might see a different side of Catterall. We might have to see a different side to Catterall to make sure he gets in the fight at all, because the likes of Haney and Prograis are too good technically to allow Catterall just to walk in, whereas he was able to do that against Linares, but there's levels.
Okay, is there anything else you want to add to the Jack Catterall discussion? I mean, Hearn in his post-fight interview seemed to think that he didn't say it'd be pay-per-view. I got a hint from the tone and the narrative. He's talking about the need for a build-up and the need for a storyline, and that you've got that between Taylor and Catterall. But it's hard to see. I mean, Hearn's going to sell it as a pay-per-view if he does make it, but it's very hard to see it being a pay-per-view worthy fight when the opening bell goes.
Yeah. The trouble is now, pay-per-view, DAZN especially. So when DAZN come out, Eddie Hearn was, right, streaming service, you pay a monthly fee, none of this pay-per-view nonsense, rah, rah, rah. All of a sudden, the top fighters are now on DAZN pay-per-view, and it's just going to carry on where we are going to get lesser fights on pay-per-view. I understand Canelo, AJ, etc. being on pay-per-view because they're pay-per-view stars, but we were sold the concept of DAZN where this ain't going to be pay-per-view. It's going to be a streaming service. You pay a monthly subscription. That will be that. Whereas now, everything's DAZN pay-per-view. As we've just seen last weekend with the circus.
I disagree with a little bit there on the grounds that I agree you've got pay-per-view fighters in the sense of having pay-per-view. You can put Canelo Alvarez and you can put Joshua in big heavyweight fights, and you've got But when you put Canelo in with like Avni Yildirim, when you put Joshua in, I mean, he's had pay-per-views with Eric Molina, and it's. I mean, Carlos Takam was a pay-per-view. That was a late notice fight against an awkward opponent he was always going to beat. Like, there is a problem, I think, with the business model of boxing in that respect, of that we're not getting pay-per-view fights anymore. We're getting pay-per-view fighters. And it isn't based on the quality of the boxing. It's based on, and I'll go at Eubank Ben. You've got a guy that's taken the best shots from George Groves at super middleweight against the guy that's at 140 pounds was being knocked over by a French journeyman. And somehow we're being sold that this is a pay-per-view fight we should all tune into.
It's all gone very WWE again, hasn't it? It's more about the storylines and what will sell. And the problem is, there's that money. I'm not begrudging fighters of it; they deserve it. But there's that much money in boxing. They feel that they have to put it on pay-per-view to try and reclaim the money because they can't pay the fighters otherwise. And now we've got Saudi coming in. It's 10 times worse. So for them to even make their money back, to clean their face with it, they need to put it on pay-per-view. And that's the trouble, because Anthony Joshua has now ended up costing DAZN a lot of money. He'll still bring money in, but not the amount that he was supposed to, because obviously he has now lost 3 times. So I think they took a risk with DAZN, and now they're just trying to salvage what they can and put whatever fight as pay-per-view to try and claw anything back.
Well, I think I do want to mention while we talk about money in boxing, and I don't know if you felt this when the camera panned around before the main event started, there seems to be a lot of empty seats in that venue. A lot of empty seats. Is boxing financially killing itself? Like, should promoters be doing more to fill venues, either through putting on better quality fights or reducing the ticket pricing in a cost of living crisis?
It's a hard one, because I think the biggest problem is it's a victim of its own success. Boxing is now currently spoken about much more than it ever has been. Well, since the 80s anyway. And there's shows on every single week. There's 2 or 3 shows on every single week. And they're having to do it because there's just so much demand from the fans. But it's no longer the event that people want to go out to. And I think COVID's had a part to play in it. People are much more comfortable getting their mates around the house, chipping in a £5 each and watching a pay-per-view, for example. So they're not going out to the big venues for it.
No, I agree. All right, let's move on to the undercards. Chief support was Peter McGraw against Fran Mendoza for a WBA, I think it was trinket, some sort of, was it continental title?
Yeah, it was.
It's pretty unanimous McGraw win, 99-91, 2 of the judges' scorecards. 97-93 on the third. I mean, I scored at 99-91. And I think I was probably being a little bit kind to Mendoza when I gave him a round.
Yeah.
What was your take on the fight?
I guess it's what you expect at this stage. It's hard to tell. McGrail looks the part. His amateur pedigree is sensational. He is probably one of the most brightest stars coming out at the minute. And it was a good fight. Mendoza's no mug. He's I think he was 16-0 before the 17-0 before the fight. Not a puncher as such. But I think McGrail went in there and done a very good job on him against someone that looks good on the record as well.
So, I thought it was a pretty complete fight from McGraw, to be fair. I thought he looked superb. I thought he was sharp. If it's one thing I did think, his reflexes did slow a little bit. I thought towards the end of the fight, you could see that the gas tank was starting to empty, but he was still trying to defend himself in the same way with that hands low, relying on his reflexes. When he goes up the weight, like when he goes up the weight, well, when he goes up the weights as well, but when he goes up and he steps up in class in terms of his opponents, he's going to be found. He's going to be found wanting against some harder punches, isn't he? If he's going to defend with his hands low and rely on his reflexes in the manner he does, he's probably a knockout waiting to happen. Maybe a little bit. I mean, there was talk before the fight. You know, I know it probably was a little bit of the DAZN team going into overdrive about, Amir Khan was highly respected amateur that fought an unknown Colombian in Bradis Prescott, and all of a sudden Prescott's chinned him in a round, which obviously clearly didn't happen in this case. And if they tried making that example after the fight, it would have been laughed out. But you can see a little bit, I think, of Amir Khan in Peter McGrail.
Yeah, he's definitely got the confidence. He's got the confidence, and I think I get what you're saying with with his style at the moment. But I think he's at the stage in his career where he can sort of get away with that at the moment, and I think he will be sharpened up as he improves. I mean, what was that? I think it was his 8th fight.
Yeah, he was 7-0 coming into this.
Yeah, so 8-0,
five knockouts maybe.
Yeah, I think it was. Yeah, he's still learning his trade. He's got all the amateur experience in the world, and I think with the right guidance, sharpen up his style a little bit, be a bit more defensive when he needs to be, rather than taking the risks. Well, world's his oyster. I really do believe in Peter McGrail.
Hearn seemed to think that he's 12 months away from a world title. McGrail thinks he's ready now. I'm probably erring more towards Hearn. I think he probably does need 1 or 2 more step ups before I think he's ready for that level.
Yeah, there's so much pressure on the fighters these days to get to the world title as quickly as possible. And Eddie's seen it before when he put Joshua in there with Charles Martin, 16 fights in, won it easy, as he was supposed to do. But once you reach that world level, every fight from then has to be at world level. And you come unstuck a lot quicker. So there's no harm in letting him ply his trade at the lower levels and build up gradually. I don't think there's any rush. I wouldn't even say a year. I'd say 18 months to 2 years. Get him through, get him moving up through, face a few different styles, and see where he can go. There's no point rushing.
Further down the undercard, we had Jack Turner, first round knockout over Mr. Yahaya. I hope I pronounced that right. The Tanzanian. He looked wild. And I mean really wild. Like, he came in, there was no... I found it weird afterwards that Hearn was talking about, he's a far better boxer, and we'll see more of him, more of his boxing skills as he steps up. But he just seemed to come out like, I've got dynamite in my hands and I'm going to detonate with everything I throw. It was exciting. I mean, it's what you want to see on an undercard as a boxing fan. But it didn't give us anything to learn from, did it? We didn't learn anything coming from Jack Turner from that fight.
No, you're right, and I don't think he's learned anything from it either. You're in there against an opponent you expect to beat. It's tight. You show a few different things, try a few different things. You've just gone through a grueling training camp. You might as well put some new things to the test rather than just coming out bowling over a guy you're meant to bowl over. As they say, nobody gets paid for overtime in boxing, but at the same time, you're not learning on the job when you're just going in and blasting them out so quickly.
one thing he's going to struggle with, I think, is he's a super flyweight, and we don't have that depth in this country of super flyweights. There isn't a domestic scene for it as such, and a lot of the world's titles at that level are dominated by the East Asians, by the Japanese and the Thais. So he's going to have difficulty being matched. And I think you've got to take. It's great that he can get these guys out of there, but he's going to need to fight someone with a bit more boxing ability, or he's going to have no learning curve with which to make the step up, and he's going to have to progress very quickly because he's not going to have what the middleweights and the super middleweights and the welterweights and so on have of going through area title level and then going up into, because he's too small for it.
Yeah, and I think as well, finding sparring partners at that weight can be horrendous as well. So that's why when he is getting the ring time, he needs to be making the most of it, because you learn more in the ring than you can from any sparring session. And when you're not sparring people your own weight, it's hard to find a balance between what you need to be doing, whether you need to be boxing at times, whether you need to be coming out as he has. And I just feel like he's rushing himself too much, and he will obviously get a lot of talk about him. He'll get progressed through the ranks a lot quicker than he should, and could find himself unstuck against them big world champions.
I think we'll be seeing more of him because after the fight, his interview, he was championing his turn to sign him. He's clearly not a matchroom fighter. He clearly wants to be. But Herm was also saying, "Oh, we need scouse boxers to come through to sell out the M&S Arena," and there's clearly a big void in Liverpool at the moment that's yearning out for Turner and Peter McGraw to step in, because I think Callum Smith's career will end on the 14th of January against Arthur Beterbiev.
Yeah,
I don't know if Liam Smith will come back from that Eubank loss. If he seems to suggest that he struggled after that, making the way to middleweight, and he's too small, I think, to go to super middle. So I think his career is in certainly a very difficult position, if not over. I mean, Jack Catterall couldn't sit out, and Jack Catterall's from. I mean, Chorley's just outside Manchester. He's not a Liverpool fighter.
No, there's not a lot. Obviously, Bellew's gone. Most of the Smith brothers are gone or will be gone. There's nothing really coming out of Liverpool at the minute. Obviously, Turner and McGraw, but apart from that, we're struggling.
Needs a David Price comeback.
Not another one.
Reece Blotty, I thought that was a fun fight. Commonwealth title, final eliminated for the British. I was surprised Blotty came in as an underdog, which felt. I know it was a pretty even fight of the bookies, but they did have Blotty as a slight underdog, which I found weird. Fiaz didn't seem to do anything. He seemed to sort of like have that weird kind of almost Mayweather like one arm low, one arm high kind of guard, and then he didn't really seem to get on the front foot and try and throw anything.
Yeah, I feel like Bellotti just used his experience and just kept it simple, made it easy for himself. I was expecting more from Fiaz, especially coming into the fight unbeaten. But the problem was Fiaz was got, as his record states, no punch power whatsoever. So he needed to try and land something on Bellotti earlier, didn't have it, and Bellotti just sort of took over the fight and dictated it.
I have Fiaz winning 2 rounds in the third and fourth.
Yeah.
Other than that, I thought it was a pretty wide shutout. Obviously, Fiaz retired on his stall at the end of the eighth.
Eighth it was, yeah.
Yeah, Jamie Moore seemed to pull him out. it's hard to see where Fiaz goes. I know Belotti's a Commonwealth champion. Belotti will step up, and I'm trying to think who the welterweight British champions Echo Esserman, I think.
Esserman, yeah.
Yeah, so this was a welterweight fight. I want to have a look at it.
No, it was junior lightweight, yeah.
Yeah. So that'd be a good fight for Belotti. I think that'd be a fun fight for the fans as well.
I think it's just another one with Belotti. Every time he's looked like he's going somewhere, he sort of just gets put back down again, and sort of makes his way back up to get put back down again. It's a hard one. He's a good fighter, Belotti, but he's very limited. I feel like as soon as he starts going through the levels, he gets found out and sort of comes back again. I think he's 5 or 6 losses on his record. It says it there. Out of 22 fights. And yeah, fun.
I think the last fight at the main card before we go into the pre-show warm up was Tom Farrell. He got stopped, got dropped 3 times. I think the third knockdown was in the 6th was the end of him. He's had a good career, Farrell. I think he's found his level, and I think if he's not careful soon, I think he's probably going to slip into journeyman kind of territory.
Yeah, you can already sort of start to feel it happening, fighting the unbeaten novices that are making their way up. He is becoming a bit of a sort of a gatekeeper at the minute to British/European level, and I think that's all that's left for him. He's lost 8 fights now, on the decline. What do you think of Majid?
It's hard to say because that was the first time I've seen him. To be honest, I had him winning every round comfortably after. I think I'll go Farrell the first. But after that, Majid, once he found his comfort zone in the second, he just took over the fight.
Yeah. And
that was it. Hello, Martin.
Hello, how are we doing?
I'm good. We're joined by a professional fighter who's going to give us some fantastic insight into the Catterall Linares cards.
Yep. How are we
Firstly,
doing? Sorry I'm late. Sorry I'm late, mate.
That's all right. So what was your take on the main event?
Catterall Linares. Do you know, I've been a big fan of Linares for years. I think he's been a fantastic fighter. He's still a good standard now, but he's not what he was. And he got beat he wouldn't have lost to Catterall 5-6 years ago, even though Catterall's a fantastic fighter. But he went out on his shield, got beat, but he got beat fair and square. He ain't the same man as he was though.
No, I said this to Aaron. Obviously, we opened the video with that discussion. First couple of rounds, Catterall seemed to be leaning over his front foot quite a lot, and he didn't seem to be holding his balance. And I looked at that and thought, Jorge Linares that beat Kevin Mitchell and Anthony Crolla is going to find that chin.
Yeah. He sort of adjusted after the first couple of rounds. He was more weight on the back foot, countering, using that southpaw style. Used it really effectively. He boxed really well, to be fair to him. But yeah, he did maybe a bit nervous first couple of rounds, fighting such a big name, a four-time world champion in 3 different weights. This might have been a bit daunting for him the first couple of rounds. Had to get that nervous energy off, maybe. Yeah, but he adjusted and done the job. So yeah.
If you're Jack Catterall, what are you looking at next?
If I was him, I'd be looking at the return with because he won the first fight in my eyes.
Yeah, my eyes.
So
Yeah.
I think in most people's eyes, other than the judges, but yeah, I'd be trying to get that return. I think he's got his number. I think Taylor's a great fight, an outstanding fighter, but I think just Catterall's got his number.
I think it's going to be difficult to see the fight given Taylor can't make 140 anymore, and I don't think Catterall. I think Catterall's still quite big at 140, but I can't see him going up to 147 yet. And I don't think a catchweight suits either party. We spoke about the rest of the undercards. Peter McGraw fight, quite a dominant performance from him. Jack Turner's first round knockout. Anything you want to mention on the undercards?
Yeah, I watched the Peter McGraw fight. I was really impressed with him because that guy, the Colombian guy, 17-0. Now, sometimes you can get these guys from different countries that have got these impressive records, but who they've beat is questionable. They've got a right padded up record, but that guy is a strong fighter. He's a strong, awkward fighter, and he came to win. So was it McGraw's 9th fight, something like that? I think that's a very solid win. He got caught out. I think he had a busted nose, bit of a black eye and stuff. But fighting someone like Mendoza early on like that, I take my hat off to him. It's a tough night's work, and it's a very good win, I think.
If we go further down the undercard, we'll go to the main event of the YouTube portion of the show was Campbell Hatton.
Mm-hmm.
It's quite interesting how much Hearn's losing patience with him because he said before the fight he was very much like, this is his 14th fight. He needs to start stepping up to title level soon. And then, Samson, I had losing all but one of the rounds.
Yeah.
He got docked 2 points and then disqualified. And then Hearn came out afterwards and said he's got to step up the title level and just reiterated everything he said pre-fight about Campbell. It probably is time, I think, for Campbell Hatton to step up certainly to an area title, if not English title, given his name, given the promotion and the record he's had. But how far can he go, and how far does? Because we saw it with Conor Benn, where Conor Benn struggled, and then all of a sudden he seemed to turn it around.
He improved big time, yeah.
And does Campbell Hatton have that in his locker?
Well, it kind of remains to be seen, don't it? The problem with the fight he had the other night, again, the guy's record wasn't too bad on paper. It wasn't like he was fighting an out-and-out journeyman, but it's not the test that Will wanted to see. Like an area title level fight or something against, a guy from the same area, obviously, but hungry to win, had a full camp, good record. I'd mean everything to this guy to beat someone with the name Hatton. In a proper, you don't really get dull area title fights. They're really good dust up. So, I think something like that would be good at this stage of his career to test him.
What do you make of it, Aaron?
I don't know if it's me just being biased because I don't rate Campbell Hatton in the slightest, but I feel like they're talking the talk to saying that they want to get him in these title fights, but I don't think they can match him with someone that won't beat him at the minute. I think they're trying to prolong it as long as they can until they find an opening and get him in there with someone that he can beat. I feel he's limited. I don't think he's going to go that far. But as you said, with Conor Benn, we did see improvement, but I don't think Campbell's got enough about him.
Mine, as a
Yeah.
professional fighter,
Mm-hmm.
I'll get your opinion on this. If you've been docked points twice for holding, and it was quite clear that Samson had no, this wasn't a case of he was slipping a punch and catching his arm. He was quite clearly going into.
He was
to
going
limit
in deliberately
defence.
to yeah.
Do you think he's had a little bit of a cop out there with a DQ? Do you think he should have been a bit more?
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, if I had 1 point deducted, say if I had 1 point deducted for a low blow, I might not even punch to the body again the whole fight because I don't want to risk that, you know. Unless, like he said, did he see it as a cop out, a DQ, rather than like a TKO or a wide points loss, you know? I mean, only he can answer that question, but it does seem a bit of a cop out. If you've had not one, if one would be enough for me, but 2 points deducted for something, for holding, I'm not holding it. Do you know what I mean? I'm not even, I'm not grabbing it at all.
Yeah,
that's my
definitely.
opinion. Yeah.
Anyway, the rest of the undercards. I mean, I missed the first 2 fights. I'm sort of working my way back a little bit. I did see Paddy Lacey's first round knockout. Great body shot. He caught it perfect. He timed it to perfection. Just caught it straight under the elbow. I mean, Kurtz wasn't getting up. Aaron Anthony Croller's brother.
Exciting. Obviously, everyone loves Anthony Croller, his brother, and it's good to see the name carrying on through British boxing. William did what he had to do. We're not going to know anything yet. He's at that stage, but two fights done, 2 good wins. See where we go from there.
He's done nothing wrong yet, has he? He's done everything right.
And then we had the return of Muhammad Ali. He had a 6-round shutout win.
He's got a big name to live up to.
We've still got Sonny Liston, haven't we, knocking around somewhere on the small little circuit?
There's some Sonny Liston something or other. Yeah, I've heard of him.
There's a fight we need to see on pay-per-view sooner rather than later.
The new Sonny Liston be the new Ali.
With what's been made at the minute with Misfits boxing, who knows, eh?
I was just saying, we've got a question in the YouTube from Trini Hammer. What do you guys think of YouTube stars and social media types having pay-per-view events? I'll go to you first, Darren. You can answer that one, and then we'll come to mine afterwards.
I feel like money talks. That generates the revenue and the income, and it ends up on pay-per-view because of it. Whether it's right or wrong on fighters, perhaps as yourself, Martin, that don't really get the opportunities that your talent certainly should give you to follow on with the money. Sorry about that. Can you hear that?
I can hear some sort of buzzing. Yeah.
Yeah.
I can still hear you as well, so it's all right.
No problem. Yeah, so fighters like yourself that don't quite get the money you deserve or the fights you deserve, and seeing these amateur, not even amateurs, are they? Let's be honest. Coming through and sort of getting the big paychecks, it can be quite a hard pill to swallow, but unfortunately, they generate the revenue and they generate the income, and that's why they're getting it. It's hard to. It's entertainment, but it's not boxing, and I think that needs to be put forward a lot better than it has been so far.
Yeah. Also, I think in the short term. So I'll come to you in a second, Mike, because obviously you're. I think in the short term, it's probably a bad thing for boxing in respect that I watched the KSI Tommy Fury. I watched part of the KSI Tommy Fury. I watched that Logan Paul against the Loudmouth. I didn't want to fight as well, but having watched those fights, like they're really poor quality. They're not pay-per-view quality. They're bottom of a small hall show, really. You know, it's fodder. It's small hall fodder that it's used to stack out a small hall card, but it's got pay-per-view because of their celebrity status. In the long term, though, if it gets more kids into boxing gyms, then the whole YouTube scene isn't going to last forever. And these kids will come through boxing gyms and they'll go through and they'll be on the amateur circuit and they'll come through that way.
That's
so
true.
In the long term, we in the short term, we've got to deal with some pretty horrendous boxing. But in the long term, we are going to be better off for it.
More people boxing, more people into boxing. So boxing grows as a sport kind of thing. Yeah, I agree with you there. I agree with you. But I actually think they're very clever people as well. How they market it, how they promote it. My missus, she likes boxing, but she knows more about Tommy Fury, KSI, all what's going on than I do, because it's so promoted. Like, it kind of reminds me of WWF, WWE, whatever you call it, wrestling, all the drama side of it. But it's a bit of fun, and yeah, like I said, if it gets more kids into boxing, then the sport grows, surely.
Yeah, it's WWE meets white collar boxing.
Yeah, that is it, and they wouldn't survive. I know so many amateurs that are so they wouldn't last around with.
Yeah,
but they got followers.
Gyms and
Yeah,
seen a number of kids that I think would quite happily and quite easily and quite comfortably beat some of these YouTube stars. But all right, shall we wrap up the Liverpool cards? And funny enough, on the talk of area titles, now we'll move on to York Hall, Geezer's Palace. Martin, you've got an area title fight coming up there. Do you want to take this opportunity to, before we move on to the Lowell Chamberlain card? Do you want to tell us how that's going? And
11th of November. I'm topping the bill at York Hall. Very excited about that. Anyone who knows York Hall knows it's like an iconic sort of small boxing venue. Yeah, I'm fighting for the Southern Area title. It's a vacant belt against a guy called Paul Roberts. I'm technically the away fighter, but I'm bringing a lot of support as well. It's going to be loud, electric. He's a good fighter. I'm a good fighter. It's all on the line. It's going to be a good night.
Yeah,
so,
West Ham aren't. West Ham are away, aren't we? No, we're at home. We're at home the following day. So there's no excuse for West Ham not to pack out the York Hall.
That's it. Yeah, nice and local. Look, I'm not a world beater. I don't claim to be, but I'll give 200% when I'm in there. I'll leave it all in the ring. I'll give a good, exciting fight. That's what I can promise. But I'm feeling confident of winning this one. So.
I mean, Leighton Orient at home that day as well, actually. So if we're gonna just open it up slightly, no excuse. People can go and watch Leighton Orient at home and jump on a train down to Bethnal Green.
Yeah,
boxing in the evening.
A good night.
Have a good day out.
Yeah. Good day and night out. That proper night out, isn't it?
So do you want to quickly have? I mean, I'm assuming you're selling tickets. You'll have tickets to sell.
Yeah, I'm selling tickets. Yeah, it's how it works. When there ain't big TV companies involved, tickets have to be sold. So yeah. Anyone who fancies not out can add me on any of my social medias. My Twitter at Martin Hillman, at MH Boxing, Instagram, Martin Hillman on Facebook. Add me up. I can sort anyone out. Tickets direct. No ticket fees or anything if you come direct to me. So yeah.
There you go.
There you go.
We'll give that a plug afterwards on the social media accounts and try and point a few people in your direction.
Thank you.
York Hall. York Hall, headlined by Mikel Lowell, Isaac Chamberlain, British cruiserweight, title fight. Did you see any of it, Martin? You watching this card?
That was the same card as the Louis Green and Gilly, wasn't it?
That was it, yeah.
Yes, I watched that fight. The other one I only saw highlights of, if I'm honest. I was flicking between the two. I know Louis Green personally, so that was a cracking fight. I was watching him and I was switching over to Sky and that. So
I will come back at that afterwards because I really, that was a really good fight. But judges return verdicts: 119, 111, 118, 111 twice. I can't work. If it's one thing I don't like in boxing, and then there's a lot of things I don't like in boxing, but if it's one thing I don't like with judging, it's 10 all rounds. Like when you watch a fight, you should be able to pick a winner of each round. There should be something you like, whether you score it on ring generalship, offense, defense, power, quality, quantity. There'll be something that separates the two fighters. So I thought the 9th was a close round, but I still scored it at Chamberlain. I only gave the Wild 2 rounds, I'll be honest. I gave him the 8th and I gave the last rounds. But Aaron, if you're a British champion and you're defending your belt and you've got this grudge match and you've built it up and there's been videos released of you sparring, and you've got to come and try and do more than Lowell did.
Definitely. I think the occasion got to him, to be honest with you. He seemed to freeze early on, couldn't really find his feet. And I think he allowed Chamberlain to sort of set the tempo, and he just made it too easy for Chamberlain from the start. Chamberlain was able to pretty much do what he wanted in there, and we saw it as the fight went on. And I think Chamberlain could have probably done more, but he didn't need to. It was a simple fight for him.
No, he tore his bicep in the 11th, didn't he? He was sort of carrying that right hand through the last 2 rounds. But in fairness to him, he did see it out. He did manage to he sort of fainted with it and then left openings for left hooks. And for whatever reason, I know it was only 2 rounds, but Lowell didn't seem to act on it or pick up on it, and his corner didn't either.
I sort of feel like they thought the fight was done at that point anyway. I don't think there was enough of ambition, which is crazy given how big a fight it was. I don't think the ambition was there. I think Chamberlain got himself into a rhythm and sort of put him in his place to the point where I think he was just happy to see it out on points in the end.
Mentally beaten.
Yeah. I think he gave Chamberlain too much respect, and Chamberlain just asserted himself, and sort of a broken man throughout the fight, and I think it just killed his ambition.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's a shame because I was really high on Lowell. I thought he'd get a knockout. I really thought Lowell was pre-fight. I thought Lowell would carry the punch power. And I thought Chamberlain, having already lost to Billup Smith and Akoli, and I was at the Akoli fight. That was a terrible nice boxing. But I felt like it was probably there for Lowell, and for whatever reason, it wasn't even gun shy. Just the first 2 rounds, I don't think he landed a shot. But basically, I mean, the aftermath of that, they alluded to. So got mine.
I was only going to say, mate, do you think like he felt the power early and was shook from it and thought, and that's why I'm talking someone, I've only seen highlights of that particular fight. So you tell me, but maybe he felt one early and sort of got to him, didn't fancy it, do you think? Or
what did you think, Aaron?
I think it could well be. I feel like it just goes down to the respect. He definitely he respected Chamberlain too much early, and it sort of, the way fights, you can set the pattern out early, and it's very hard to shift the momentum. He didn't have that moment where he could turn the fight,
That's
Normally,
the
you can have that one punch can change any fight, and it just didn't come. And then I think it got to the point where he didn't even bother looking for it. He seemed like he felt like he was inferior in there, and that confused me a lot.
So what next to Chamberlain? I mean, because they were asking him in the ring afterwards. They were talking about the European title fight coming up at Cruiser between Tommy McCarthy and Michael Cieslak. There was a brief mention. Crispin and Smith was there to do punditry about a possible rematch for a world title. I want to see that. It's very hard to see how Chamberlain does anything differently to trouble Billum Smith. But Villa O'Reilly was ringside. He said that he's English champion, obviously. He wants the British. So if you're Isaac Chamberlain in this situation, Martin, are you looking upwards at a potential fight? I think Michael Cieslak will probably beat Tommy McCarthy. Are you looking at a European and thinking I'll go for that? Probably an undercard fight on a main
on like a massive bill. You mean?
Yeah, or do you go because Vito O'Reilly's obviously got the KSI following from being his trainer? Vito O'Reilly's probably going to be the money fight of the two, but that's going to mean defending your British against an upcoming. Hungry.
Yeah, I mean, it depends what he wants, because if you make 3 defences of the British title, obviously you keep the belt for good, which is a beautiful belt to keep and a very good achievement. So if he's aiming for that, then that fight makes sense, I think, because it's also looking like a better financial fight. It's going to bring the money in, and it'll be a notch on defending his British Lonsdale belt title. If he's looking upwards to go on to more, maybe European title McCarthy fight, like you mentioned there. I think that would be a very interesting fight. Don't think he'll get a look in at world level yet, but you never know.
I can only see a world title fight if it's Billum Smith and it's a big British. It's very. I know Jaya Petra's just defended against Jordan Thompson. It's very difficult to see the selling point for Isaac Chamberlain to the other cruiserweight champions.
Yeah, it would only be a voluntary defence, I would assume. Yeah, I don't see it, to be honest with you. Now, if he was to go and win the European belt against McCarthy, then I think he's more, what's the word I'm looking for? More, not valid, but I can't think.
I've got a feeling. I've got a feeling that if whoever wins that European title fight, Cieslak's currently ranked second with the WBO. So I've got a feeling whoever wins that would then be looking at Jaya Petra and thinking, there's a world title fight here for me. So I suspect in that case, Chamberlain could well fight for a vacant European title rather than fighting
the McCarthy
champion.
Yeah.
Aaron, you got anything to add? Sorry, go on, mine.
I said in these modern, who knows what could happen? Money talks at the end of the day.
Yeah.
That is.
Aaron, you got anything to add to the main event?
No, just moving forward with Chamberlain's next fight. If I'm him, I don't think the risk and reward fighting Riley is worth it for him at the minute. I think he has got to go the European route and try and get himself back on the world title hunt. Fighting an up-and-coming alleged future star like Riley, if he loses to him, it's game over.
Yeah.
All right, so on to the undercards.
Yeah.
Chief support was Louis Green, Sam Gilly. Aaron, I'll come to you first. Obviously, Martin said he's watched the fight. And he's obviously what did you make of that fight? And I'll say this though, obviously 117, 110, 118, 110, 116, 111 on the three scorecards. I thought that was too wide. I thought I had it 114, 113 Gilly. I thought the knockdown made the difference. But I think you're giving far too much benefit of the doubt in close rounds, I think, to get those kind of scorecards. And there were some close rounds, but I'm not buying 118, 110 as a viable scorecard on that fight.
No, definitely not. It was too much of a battle for one of those scorecards to ever come out. I think when you're looking at 118, 110s, there needs to be clear dominance throughout the fight. And I didn't feel it was that way. I had it slightly wider than you did. I think the right man won, which is always the main thing. I think I had it 116, 112 in the end. But yeah, really enjoyable fight. Obviously, a lot of ups and downs for both fighters, but like I said, right man won on the night.
Yeah, that's the main thing, that the right man wins. But it's a weird one with scoring, because I'm like you, I did about that. Obviously, there was the 10-8 round with a knockdown as well. But sometimes you can get a card like 118, 110, and it's like it don't do the losing fighter justice, because that looks a wide score. But what's to say that judge didn't score it by that, like 8 rounds one way, but really only just to one guy every 8 rounds? Do you know what I mean? It don't justify how close the fight was.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I mean, I appreciate that. You know, you could have a very tight fight that is quite justifiably a 120, 108 card if one fighter has nicked every round by a little bit, but it doesn't take into account, you know, the other fighters' contributions.
Yeah. But like I said, I know Louis Green personally, and his dad John. They're great people. He's a proper fighting man. He always has fights like that. All he knows is come forward, hands up, dig in and go work. He's had some great fights. He's been in the away corner a few times. He boxed in Poland, beat one of their guys out there. I think he won a Commonwealth title in Scotland as the away guy. So he's always in them kind of fights. He don't do jab and move. He don't do easy fights. But yeah.
So obviously he's lost his Commonwealth belt.
But I'm sure
Sam Gilly's going to move on. British champion Samuel Antwi. That'll be an interesting fight. I think Samuel Antwi against Sam Gilly.
Yeah, like that Antwi is a nightmare to fight, I think, with his unorthodox, slippery style at times, and he looks quite explosive with his shots and that. So, yeah, that would be a tough fight for Gilly, I think.
Yeah, it'd be one I want to watch. Though that'll be a fight I'll be
100%.
looking for.
100%, yeah.
All right, the opening fight of the night: Carrie Stall against Vanessa Bradford. Bradford's never been dropped before, never been stopped. You know, lost to Alicia Baumgartner, lost to Michaela Mayer, and Carrie Stall stopped her, knocks her down in the first, finished the fight in the second. First knockout win of Artenstall's career.
It's a statement.
What did you think of that, Aaron?
Sorry, man, I'm having trouble hearing you. What did you say? Sorry.
So I said about Carrie Artenstall's win over Vanessa Bradford.
Very impressive. I think you said that was her first knockout victory as well, and it was great name to do it against. Bradford's been in with very, very high level of opposition, and it's a very good string on Artenstall's bow to have. Makes her a lot more marketable moving forward as well to have a name like that on her resume.
After the fight, she said she wanted to go the British title route, currently held by Raven Chapman. If we can get through the politics of Frank Warren and Sky, then we're in for a good night. I think that's going to be a good fight. That's certainly up favour Art and still. I think the amateur pedigree is going to count for quite a lot. But Raven Chapman does come to fight.
Yeah, I mean, it's the adult, the same old thing. If we can get Frank Warren and Sky to work together, though, isn't it? How many fights have slipped through the net because that doesn't happen?
It was interesting point, actually, because I think Anthony Yard and Joshua Buatsi were both ringside, and there's a fight that people have been calling for a long time that clearly hasn't happened because of the politics involved in the respective networks.
Yeah. 100%. Yeah. It's a bit like the Amir Khan Kell Brook fight. It eventually happened, but a few years too late, in my opinion. And that was
they were a long way.
Yeah.
A long way past their best.
Mm.
But then we've got a thing in boxing for this, can we? Because like Mayweather Pacquiao happened probably 5 years too late. We've had Crawford Spence happen probably 5 years too late. So, I mean, Khan Brook was probably 10 years too late if we're being brutally honest.
Yeah.
Something else got to give with boxing, and before it eats itself, we need to start seeing some of these fights getting made sooner.
100%.
And you can even throw Fury Joshua into that mix now as well.
That
Joshua couple of years ago. Yeah, it's embarrassing at the minute, especially in the heavier weights. Fights aren't being made anyway, let alone promoters having problems with each other. They need to. It's just very hard to get around because the broadcasters hold all the cards.
Yeah.
But this is broadcasters hold the cards, but HBO have pulled out in America. Showtime are now pulled out. Terrestrial companies, I mean, ITV were getting 15 to 20 million for the big fights when they were showing them. You know, in the days of Eubank and Watson and Bruno and Ben, and they've dropped out. And at the moment, you've got this very limited pool of DAZN, Sky Sports, and the artist formerly known as BT. Beyond that, boxing just doesn't exist on television. And I don't think it's going to be too long, with all due respect to Ben Shalom and Boxer, before Sky Sports start looking at it and going, you know, they've already pulled Ringside. They pulled Ringside a few years ago and said, well, there's no traction in having a weekly show. Given that, let's be fair, the vast majority of cards aren't pay-per-view in this country, tend to be quite poor quality. It seems to have quite poor headliners. And we're in this age, as me and Aaron was alluding to before you came on mine, of pay-per-view fighters where we're getting Canelo versus Avnish Yildirim and Anthony Joshua, Eric Molina as pay-per-views. I mean, Dillian White, Derek Chisora, we had that.
Good fights, but not what you'd say pay-per-view necessarily, you know.
No, they're kind of Saturday night headliners, aren't they? They're not.
Yeah.
They're not pay-per-view fights. All right. Well, the last fight on the All Cool cards, we had Mick Hennessy Jr. against Joe Laws. That was probably the best fight of the weekend for me. I don't know if either of you two, Aaron, you caught it, didn't you?
Yeah, I watched that. Great fight.
Yeah.
How did you score it? Out of interest.
I had Right Man won again for me, but I had it by a round. I had 76-75, but it was one of those fights where you couldn't argue with a draw. Don't like seeing drawn fights, but I didn't have Mick Hennessy Jr. winning it, and that's sort of the main thing for me.
I had it drawn. I had it 76-76.
Yeah.
You know, I gave Laws 3. It was weird because in the commentary they seemed to think that Hennessy started stronger. Or maybe I'm watching a completely different fight to everyone else. They seem to think Hennessy started stronger. I gave Laws 3 the first 4 rounds, and then they seem to think Laws came on stronger towards the second half of the fight. And I thought Laws was tiring. He said as much in his interview, his post-fight interview. He said that had he had 8 weeks camp, he would have been a much better, much stronger fighter.
Yeah.
But he didn't. And he was calling for it afterwards, saying, look, give me 8 weeks camp and I'll show you what I can do. Yeah, and he admitted he was tiring. But yeah, I gave Hennessy 3 of the last 4. But it was a good clash of styles.
Yeah.
Hennessy was trying to box some range. You know, trying to be a little bit slippery. Laws at a high guard coming forwards, trying to work on the inside. It's a fight that I'd love to see a rematch of. And Laws afterwards said he wanted an 8-week camp. I would be quite happy to see both of these. He said as well he took the fight 12 days notice. You know, I'd love to see that one run back. Give Joe Laws 8 weeks notice. Let Hennessy kind of work on some of those mistakes. And really,
let's get it over 10 rounds. Give them both a camp. Get it over 10. Put a title on the line. Give both men a camp and let them have it again. Be a great fight to watch again, I think.
I'll be in favour of that. Would you be happy to see that one back, Aaron?
Yeah, and I fully agree with Martin over the 10-round distance as well. Give them both a proper full-length training camp over 10 rounds. We'll see. I mean, they're not big, massive names. They're not probably going to go on to do all that much. But it's what you want to see on an undercard, a nice competitive fight rather than a youngster against a journeyman that's had 500 fights and lost 487 of them. You want to see these close British fights where there's a bit of something to them.
Yeah.
50-50 fights.
Yeah.
And I think that's a problem with a lot of pay-per-views. If we go back to that discussion, is that pay-per-views are so often we get good prospects against gatekeeper, and we're not getting, well matched. A good British title fight is a lot better than seeing Campbell Hatton make his debut. Half an hour before an Anthony Joshua ring walk.
I agree with that 100%. Yeah, 100%. Even English title fights, British titles, anything. Even these international belts where they get decent foreign guys over who can fight and have trained and against the Brit. Like, they're great undercut. They build a card well, but. Yeah, it's we see a lot of like 4-6 rounders. You sort of you could bet big on who's going to win before they start.
Yeah.
And apart from your hardcore boxing fans, it's not going to capture the public's imagination, is it?
No. I think it's like if you're a hardcore boxing fan and you know what you're watching. Then you can kind of pick out and you kind of look at some of these up and coming prospects, and you can try and get a read a little bit on their career and where you think they're going to go. But if you're not a hardcore boxing fan and you're kind of a casual observer, if you turn out it's just 4 rounds of just one guy almost using the other guy like a punch bag, then there's no excitement. And I think to be honest, maybe you agree this, maybe don't. Small hall boxing kind of suffered for a while with that. Because there was a lot of like ticket sellers beating up prospects, ticket sellers beating up journeymen with no jeopardy in any fights.
Yeah.
And I think now I'm starting to see a little bit more like you saying you've got a Southern area title fight at York Hall. There's a 12 rounder
that's a 50-50. Yeah. He's selling tickets, I'm selling tickets, so it's all on the line 50-50. There's them sort of fights, but there will be a couple of fights on the undercard that is prospect fighting a journeyman. No doubt there will be, but there's a good few fights on the top of the bill at least.
Yeah.
But small boxing's had to do this because otherwise it's just going to die out. And that's where I think Misfits does well because, they might have two donkeys fighting, but the build-up, the hype, the panache, the showmanship is all there, and it gets a casual boxing fan interested. And even non-boxing fans, it gets people tuning in, gets the PPV numbers, it gets the viewers. Like that's what it's all about. So boxing's become like a business first and a sport second, unfortunately.
Yeah, I love the sport and I hate the business. I don't know about you, Aaron.
Yeah. I first got into boxing because I like entertainment, and that's what it is at the end of the day. It's an entertainment business. But unfortunately now there's too many people trying to protect themselves and look after themselves. Obviously, we are dealing with people's health here. At the end of the day, it's a risky business. But if you really want to sort of go where you want to go, you need to be having these 50-50 dust-ups, and nothing prepares you for the bigger fights better. There's no point going in and fighting a road sweeper every week. They've got to earn their living, but a lot of them as well, a lot of the journeymen have it sort of gentleman's agreement to not be knocked out because they're fighting again in a couple of weeks' time. And if they go in and knock one of these old journeymen out, chances are they're not going to be able to get him on the card again, and vice versa. If one of the journeymen puts in too good an effort against one of the young up and coming stars, they're not getting a phone call from Mr. Hearn again.
Yeah.
Too much of a risk. Yeah. The journeyman becomes too much of a risk, and promoters don't want to touch him.
Yeah.
That's it. Yeah. That's him. But then on the small hall scene, it's hard for... You've got a prospect and they've got to sell X amount of tickets to be allowed to fight. That's the harsh reality of it. So when they're trying to build themselves, like I've been there, when you're trying to build yourself, you're trying to create your own brand, create a following so you can get regular fights. You sort of, why do you want to pay to fight someone really hard who might beat you? That's how a lot of guys are looking at it. So they build up, get these wins, build their followings, but it's a fake padded record. And then eventually you have to step up, and that's where a lot of guys fall short, unfortunately. Where I'm sure if it wasn't the fact they had to do so much of their own promotion, more fighters be willing to take risks earlier on, because there's no more financial gain from taking a harder fight that early in your career. I'm not the best at explaining it, but do you get what I mean?
No, definitely. Out of interest, as you said yourself, you started off in that, trying to sell tickets and trying to create that sort of fan base. How many tickets do you need to sell? One, to make sure you're on the show, and two, to make sure that you break even. Because if you don't sell, I'm guessing X amount, you got to pay your opponent, you got to pay, for your you got to pay the house, so to speak.
Exactly.
Where are you looking at for your breaking even?
Right. So how it works is it depends on the fight you have, how expensive your fight is. So if you're fighting a 4-rounder against a journeyman from down the road, it's less tickets than, say, if I fought an 8-rounder against a guy they got to fly in from, say, Italy, that they're going to have to put in a hotel, feed him, accommodation, paying for more rounds, because the more rounds you do, the more expensive the opponent, the more money the opponent gets. So
Yeah.
how many tickets you got to sell depends on how expensive your fight is. So yeah. My last fight was a 10 rounder against a guy from Africa.
Oh, right.
So yeah, it wasn't a cheap fight. But way I'm looking at it is the guy had a good record. I think 34-8, good ranking. So it was like progression for my career more than like sort of meant more to me than pound notes. So yeah.
Sort of, you got what you paid for in a certain way with that one.
Yeah, I could have paid for 2 journeymen over 4 rounds, but in what I thought a prospect over 10 rounds for, if you understand, if you get what I'm trying to say, yeah. But then I'm not going to progress if doing that, you know. So yeah, it's a hard balance. It's tough.
The thing I struggle most with the small hall shows, and I feel for the fighters more than anybody, the pricing of it.
Yeah.
The pricing of small hall shows, some of them you can be paying more to go and watch a small hall show. Like I've been Tamworth Leisure Centre a couple of times, glorious place to go and watch boxing.
Yeah. I've boxed there, yeah.
I think Tolworth as well, and you're paying 50 quid on the door to get in, whereas I've paid less than that for like world championship fights, televised fights.
Yeah.
So it's hard to try and get people to buy the tickets unless they're your friends and family.
Exactly that. Or they've supported you before and they've liked what they've seen, or yeah, exactly. It is hard. Sort of on that sort of level as a boxer, you've got to be your own promoter as well. Where promoter traditionally is meant to promote a fight, but these modern times ain't like that. You know, it is what it is.
Well, we'll do our best to get your name firmly out there as well.
We'll
Appreciate that.
All right, should we get on a plane and fly to America? Where we had the zone broadcast of it was a co-main event. Alexis Roca, Gianni Santillan, and Ronald Batista, John Scrappy Ramirez. Which one do you want to start with?
Go on, you can lead, we'll follow.
Oh, okay. We'll start with the main event. We'll start with the leader of the card, the Alexis Roca, Gianni Santillan. Roca was a heavy favourite coming into this, despite having a loss on his record. Santillan unbeaten, but Santillan took him apart. I thought we all thought like it was a little bit nip and tuck for the first 4, but then fifth round, Santillan come out, started really planting his feet, landing some big shots, dropped Roca. I mean, he broke Roca's nose, I think, in the first. It was certainly a lot of blood. I'd be very surprised if it wasn't a break. But then Santillan come out, got the knockdowns. It was he got 2 knockdowns in the 5th. Roca did well to get up and see out the rounds. 6 rounds, Santillan comes out, barrage of uppercuts and hooks. Roca down the 3rd time in the fight, and the referee waves it off.
And he hadn't been stopped before, had he?
No, I don't think so.
Roca had never been stopped. Good record and never been stopped. So that's a very impressive way of him winning it as well. Santillan, I mean, that's a bit of a statement for him, isn't it?
Well, they were talking about Roca potentially looking for the Crawford fight in the next fight or 2 as well. So Santillan has completely ruined that. But Santillan was never a mug coming into the fight. He was 31-0, and to have a fighter 31-0, not fought the best, but 31-0 at that level. Decent knockout ratio. I think he was 50% before the fight. But he looked good, Santalan. He looked good. I think it's more about him being good than Rocker putting in a poor performance. Especially
I'd agree with that.
The second knockdown in the fifth, where he's thrown 5 hooks in a row. Just mesmerizing. One of the best knockouts of the year. Knockdowns of the year. I was really impressed with Santalan.
Yeah. I mean, it's very hard to see him posing too much of a challenge to Crawford, but you imagine it'll be fun while it lasts if they do make that fight.
Yeah, definitely. Well, he's put himself in the position, and that's what you set out as a boxer. I don't think anyone's really on Crawford's level. I think Crawford is just elite. But if the guard is going to change, then I'm sure he'll give a good account of himself as he can.
Yeah, I'd agree with you. No one's on Crawford's level though at the minute. He's
No.
the man with me. He's yeah.
All right, go on, please.
Sorry, no, go on. Sorry.
I was going to move on. I thought I was going to move on.
Yeah,
to
no,
Ramirez
go
fight.
on.
All right, so you had John Scrappy Ramirez against Ronald Batista. Ramirez 12-0, 8 knockouts coming into the fight. Batista was 15-3, and Ramirez handled him quite comfortably, I thought.
Yeah, and I think he's very heavy-handed. Ramirez, he looks very heavy-handed to me. He's got a lot of stoppage wins, hasn't he? And for super fly, that's that normally means he's an exceptional puncher. So I think it'd take a very good man to beat him.
Well, we were talking earlier. Go back to the Liverpool card, Catterall. Jack Turner on that, I think, was super flyweight. Came out, looked very crude, threw big punches, stopped him in the third, but 3-0. I mean, Ramirez is now mandatory for a world title after 12. Well, after his 13th fight, he said that's the fight he wants next.
He wants to fight. What? Turner wants to fight.
No, sorry. Ramirez is in love with the world title, but Turner 3-0, 3 knockouts. I mean, he's got a lot of he hasn't got a lot of time at that level, is he? At that weight class, because if Ramirez is 12-0 and he's now 13-0 now mandatory for a world title.
Yeah,
there's not much of a British scene for super flyweights for him to start going through the levels. He's kind of journeyman, gatekeeper, world level.
Yeah, you can. Those sort of weights you can progress quickly. Whereas if you was say an 11 stone fighter, there's a lot more fighters in that weight. But that like 3-0. I think the guy he beat had a good enough record on paper, but if you actually break it down and look at that guy, he'd been stopped quite a few times. But again, for his third fight, yeah, really good. But I think he's got a way to go yet. Needs a couple of proper tests first at that weight. And the fights are out there. They're just a little bit more few and far between. But you had, I think Marcel Braithwaite's just won the British super flyweight title. Very good fighter. There's a few good British fighters that Turner could get in a mix with. So, yeah.
One highlight of the fight, I don't know if you both, I know you watch your Sarah. How good did Bernard Hopkins look when he climbed in the ring after the fight in Ramirez's corner? Like, he looked ready to go. Like, he looked like the guy that he looked like he'd come out of the Joe Smith fight, just grown a bit of a beard, accepted he's gone grey. He was in superb nick, I thought. He's like, I mean, I'm 36 and I'm looking at Hopkins and thinking, if I can get myself back in the gym, that could be me when I'm 50 odd, 55.
He's exceptional, isn't he? He is exceptional.
Do you know what? I think he's a hero, like a genuine kind of. It's to do what he did to the age he did it, and to have the longevity he had, because of his commitment. Because no matter what, he didn't drink. He got up at 5 o'clock every morning to do his running. Like, he is, for me, I think, an icon. Someone you can hold up. We talk about being a role model for kids. I think Bernard Hopkins is a role model for adults.
Yeah, 100%. It just shows what you can do if you live the life and actually dedicate solely to something, doesn't it? Like, he's proof. I know they called him the executioner. Didn't they call him the alien towards the end of his career?
Yeah.
He defied age. Like, I mean, I remember some people, when Joe Kawasaki beat him, like very close, may I add, they was like, oh yeah, but he's had his best days. But then he went on for years after and won world titles after that. So he proved even more people wrong.
Unbelievable. Undoubtedly one of my favourite fighters, I think, to do it purely for the longevity that he did it for.
Yeah.
Never ducked a challenge either. Always got in there no matter what.
Yeah. He did let a white boy beat you in the end, though.
I was gonna bring that up, but I didn't want to go down that
route. All right. Any other fights? I mean, obviously there was more fights on the undercard. I didn't watch them. Aaron, you had a Gabriela Fundora IBF World Flyweight title.
Yeah.
What news for that one?
Fundora is the sister to Sebastian Fundora, who's coming through the ranks now in the men's game. So I've been keeping an eye because I watch a lot of the American cards and see her brother a lot. So it's the first time I've ever seen Gabriela, to be honest with you. But enjoyed it. I think she looked very good and very, very much like her brother. You can tell they spent a lot of their childhoods sort of together. Just crisp and exciting, and it was a good knockout in the end.
Yeah. Any other highlights on that card?
I personally didn't see any other fights on that card. So
no, I did. I've only seen the two co-mains.
I mean, this weekend we was a bit spoilt for boxing. To be fair, there was cards all over the place. I thought between your call, the American card, and the Linares Catterall card, we had quite a bit of boxing.
Well, that leads us on nicely, doesn't it, to next weekend? Unless there was anything else you want to mention about this weekend's boxing, we can talk about what's coming up next weekend.
Yeah, let's talk. Yeah.
All right, Saturday night we've got on TNT Sports Box Office live from Saudi Arabia. We got the Tyson Fury, Francis Ngannou headliner. If there's one thing we can learn from Misfits Boxing, it's that MMA stars don't tend to come over to the boxing ring and do well. No. But Ngannou, I don't watch UFC. I did have to sort of like start Googling him. But he had a 12-2 record in the UFC. He was never stopped. And of his 12 wins, 9 of them came knockout by punching. So he can punch. One of the things I do find, especially with boxers that have had a kickboxing background, is that they do tend to stand quite square on. They tend to square their shoulders up, and they do become quite easy targets to hit.
Yeah, I think that's where. It's a different sport, isn't it? They're in where they can square up more to strike, but I mean, it's a fun event. Fury and Ngannou. It makes money. It gets numbers, but as a serious boxing fight, it don't do it for me. To be honest with you,
Nice.
there's a lot of other. Do you know what I think would be a really fun fight, which people haven't spoke about, is Fury versus Zhang, Big Bang Zhang. I think that'd be a really good fight. But yeah, obviously the Usyk fight would be great to see. I think Fury beats Usyk. I think he can use his size advantages, but yeah, I don't know. It's just a money maker for him. I think this Ngannou thing. But
I don't know if this is something either of you will agree with, but I'll say it anyway because I genuinely believe it. I think Tyson Fury is massively in decline, and I think he knows it. If you look over the last 2 years, to fight since the third fight against Wilder, we've had Dillian White, and then we've had. I was about to say use the term rubber match, but I don't know quite what you call the third fight against Derek Chisora. I've heard an easy excuse for a payday, and now. You know, we're 2 years on from the third Wilder fight, and we're talking about him fighting a UFC guy that has no boxing background. I think there's a reason the Usyk fight hasn't happened. I think there's a reason that the Joshua fight never happened, that we had all this, you know, what he was going to happen, and before he took the Chisora fight, when there was all this talk about, oh, you're going to agree to this and we'll sign this and you've got a deadline and so on. I think ducking's a strong term to use, but I think there was a little bit of media manipulation to try and make it look like he was doing something when in fact he had no intention of doing it. And we've seen it with the Usyk negotiations, that Usyk's come out and said like he agreed to everything Fury said, and that fight still somehow hasn't happened. Yeah. And I think there's a reason for that. I think there's a reason for this, and I think it's simply the fact I think Fury knows those paydays aren't going to be as forthcoming in future, and he wants to try and squeeze them out,
cash in while he can.
You
mean, yeah? What better way to do it? I mean, I don't know exactly what he's getting for this, but I'm sure it's mega money against a debutant.
That's it.
It is a debutant.
I don't know if you know. I mean, I've been looking for this and I can't find it anywhere. Do either of you know if Fury's WBC title is on the line? It's not on BoxRec. The whole card isn't on BoxRec, which makes me think that this is just being given exhibition status rather than a world title.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not for the WBC belt. It's for the lineal title, whether people believe in that or not. I'm a Fury fan, so I do. But yeah, I get what you're saying with Fury being in decline. It's a hard one because he hasn't really shown decline, but he hasn't been in there with anyone to show decline. When you think of his last fights, you had the White, which was mandatory. He earned 36 million at purse bids on that, so you're not walking away from that against Dillian White. All due respect.
Allegedly.
Yeah, well, it went purse bids. So I think it was.
I know,
30...
but I think, you know, I wouldn't be surprised if there's not some clever little tactics behind that where Warren's going to look, Fury, I'll give 15 million for the fight, but if you want the fight on our terms and you want us to negotiate it, we've got to put this purse bid in to get Dillian White to agree to, because he wants his 5 million or 6 million or whatever it was. And I wouldn't be surprised if there was a few shenanigans behind the scene and a little bit less money got traded than the 36 million that was muted.
Possibly, but it did do the 94,000 at Wembley, so it generated the money. The pay-per-view buys weren't bad either. And then like he fought Chisora, didn't he? That was what it was. Gave his mate a payday, earned a couple of million, and knew he was never going to get troubled in the fight. And now Ngannou earning a shed load of money for fighting someone that's never fought professional before, boxing. You're going to take it. And then the Usyk fight's been signed-ish. the money involved in that. I mean, it's smart business at the end of the day. He's won every belt in boxing there is to win. He's won everything. The only thing he's missing is the undisputed, but he's won all the belts at different times of his career. So I'm not sure how much of the motivation's there to be undisputed.
Well, he had them, didn't he, after he beat Klitschko? He had everything but the WBC.
Yeah.
And about 5 minutes after he left the ring, the IBF went, "We want you to fight." I think it was Denis Boytsov.
Yeah.
Yeah, he couldn't win because he had a rematch clause with Klitschko, but then the IBF, to keep that belt, he had to defend against someone else. So
yeah, I think it was
either way, he had to vacate a belt somewhere. It was really weird how they done it, but
I don't think it might have been Glazkov, because didn't Martin beat Glazkov for the? Was it Boytsov? My mind's
I can't even remember.
But he has held effectively. He has been the unified champion and held all the belts that Usyk currently holds. Before
that's why he's a lineal still.
Yeah, that's why even when he was out, when Wilder was WBC and Joshua held the rest, he still claimed that lineage. On the basis that he was the man who beat the man and no one has beat him since.
Yeah.
So in that respect, he's lineal champion. There's no denying that. But what he isn't, he's undisputed. And I think if you was to look at the moment, you'd say Usyk he's probably the man in the division. And I think Usyk will beat him. I'll go on record and say that now. I think Usyk will be capable of closing the gap and mitigating his size, and I wouldn't be surprised if.
Yeah, no, I think if Fury has this Ngannou fight and then fights Usyk, or so, I think we can sort of let him off having the Ngannou fight. Do you know what I mean? Because he's doing that for an incredible payday, but then as long as I think after he then fights the main man, I don't have a problem with it. But if he then avoids Usyk again after that, then I've got a problem with it.
I think that Usyk fight needs to happen certainly by very early 2024. There is talk of the 23rd of December. The fight will happen then. But I find it hard to believe that Fury, although I don't know if you watched the face-off he did with Frampton and Ngannou, where he said he's had a 12-week camp for Ngannou because he knows he's going to be awkward and difficult. He's going to have a different style to anything that any classically trained boxer will give him. But so there is a suggestion there that he'll fight Usyk on a 6-week camp, which would give the 23rd of December some hope. I wouldn't be surprised if it doesn't happen till March or April time, personally, if it happens at all.
Yeah, I personally think December's very ambitious for it to happen. I mean, I hope it does, but I think that's ambitious. I think what you're saying is right. March, April next year is more likely.
Yeah, I think it all depends. I think it depends on how the Ngannou fight goes. I think if it ends up being a bit of a sparring session for him, and he doesn't take anything, then maybe it'd just be the extra 6 weeks would be like an extended camp for what he's already done. I think it all depends. I don't like talking about fights when there's fights to get through first. It's cliched. All the boxers say that all the time, but it's true. You need to focus on Ngannou because he can hit like a train. There's no denying that. As we said earlier, one punch can change careers, but we'll have to see. Get the 28th out of the way, and then hopefully into Usyk.
Then see, yeah.
As much as I do think there's a strong track record of MMA fighters not being able to box. Tyson Fury is very susceptible to overhand right hands. Wilder's dropped him, Pajkic dropped him, Steve Cunningham dropped him, all by throwing overhand rights just over Fury's jab. And if Ngannou's the puncher that people think he is, we could be in for an upset. And then where does that go with Fury's career?
Then Ngannou becomes the lineal champion as well, doesn't he? If that was to happen.
He's become the WBC champion.
I don't know where that leaves things, to be honest with you.
I think it turns it all a bit farcical, doesn't it? Because then you've got another name in the mix in Ngannou, who's beat the world champion but isn't a world champion, and it's through no fault of his own. It's because they can't sanction it.
Yeah. Be
right, should we move on?
Yeah.
Should we move on to the undercards?
Yeah.
I'm weary at time. He's starting to. Chiefs of Paul, Fabio Wardley defending his British title against David Adelaide. Now, this should have been Fraser Clark. And Fraser Clark's been very vocal on Sky before that he wants to be progressing onto title level. He wants to be stepping up his opponents, that he feels that he's had too many fights against far lesser opposition than he desire. Perspig gets called for the British title against Wardley, and his team have pulled him out, and we've ended up with David Adelaide.
Ben Shalom's had a nightmare. It's that simple.
He has. I'll ask either of you two, can either of you make a case for David Adelaide in this fight?
Do you want to start?
I'll let you. Go on, Martin.
Look, I think he looks a pretty good fighter. Do I see him winning this fight? No, I don't. I think it's an interesting British fight, and I think it's valid. And given that Clark pulled out for, I don't know why, but whatever reason, with why he pulled out or his promoter or whatever, I still think I'll still be interested to watch the fight personally. Yeah.
Can't really add. It's pretty much hit the nail on the head, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
Do you know what? Every time I see David Adelaide, I just can't get the Kamil Sokolowski fight out of my head. When Sokolowski, that was an absolute robbery. That was, I mean, we was talking earlier about journeyman not getting calls after they've fought, prospects. When you're Frank Warren's big heavyweight, it doesn't matter what you do against him in that kind of fight. And Sokolowski had him all ends up. I think from memory, I gave Sokolowski 4 rounds comfortably out of 6. And somehow Adelaide walked away with a decision by a point, I think. But if you look at his record, Sokolowski probably is his best win for David Adelaide. If you look at Wardley, I know we're talking about a very shot Eric Molina. Nick Webb, I think, was a decent heavyweight at British title level. Obviously Nathan Gorman was a very good heavyweight at British title level. I can't make a case for Adelaide in this fight. I look at this fight and I just think Wardley's probably going to get to him.
I think Sokolowski beat Nick Webb in another upset win. He's one of them guys who has caused a few upsets. I'm not disagreeing with you, don't get me wrong, but that Sokolowski's he can fight. He's got a bad record, but he's got some standout wins on his record, if that makes sense. I do agree with you where Wardley is the big favourite, but I don't think it's a terrible fight because Adelaide may have learned and improved from that. I think they've matched him well, winning the WBO European title, where it's like a WBO regional belt, but it's not as good as the real European title, and you can sort of get the right opponents if you can afford to, which obviously a promoter like Frank Warren can afford to. But I think it'll be a fun fight. But I do agree with you. I think Wardley has to start as favourite, and I do back him to win. So yeah, that's my 10 pence worth on the fight anyway.
All right, next fight on the card, we had you've got Joseph Parker against Simon Keane. Again, another one where Parker's 32-3 now, Simon Keane's 23-1, but it's quite a padded record. I think Simon Keane. He's on a five-year unbeaten run. I don't think he's lost a fight. I think he's lost coming 2018, and since then he's got 22 KOs, but against no one of any particular note. This feels a little bit. Obviously, Parker's in Fury's camp. This feels a little bit like Parker's making sure Fury's making sure his mate gets a payday.
Yeah, I mean, boxing skill-wise, I've always liked Parker. I think he's got a good jab, quite good boxing skill. I know he beat Andy Ruiz, didn't he, for WBO version a few years ago?
Yeah, he did, yeah.
Which was a cracking fight, by the way. But I think against the top guys are just either a bit too big for him or a bit too powerful. He's obviously a big man, but he's not like some of these heavyweights are like huge, aren't they? Like he's sort of a 15, 16 stone guy, good boxing skill, but then you get these sort of 18, 19 stone guys that are like 4 or 5 inches taller, just that bit more powerful, where he can't hold him off with his boxing skill. Like Joe Joyce could just go through him.
Yeah.
He held him off for so long. He's probably a better technical boxer than Joe Joyce, but he couldn't. Joe Joyce was too powerful to keep coming at him, and eventually got to him. But yeah, I think he beats Keane. Again, I agree with you.
Aaron?
I've liked Joseph Parker for years and years and years. I think what stopped him at I know he was former world champion, but what really stopped him against the big names is he's not spiteful enough. He's not got that dirty dog in him. He's a bit too nice, funnily enough. He comes across that way, nice, respectful guy, but too respectful and doesn't really have that dog in him. And that's why he sort of slipped down. And his last fight was against a cruiserweight that had come up to heavyweight. As a formality. This one will be a formality. I think he's just sort of maintaining a decent enough level to get a payday, but not enough for him to challenge for anything.
Yeah, I think, yeah.
Sort of seeing his career out nicely in a way.
Yeah. He's going to get these paydays. He's going to be a gatekeeper for the fighters that are on their way up. You know, I think he'll probably he's probably got 1 or 2 big upsets left in him, Parker. But
he's sort of like he's been to the top though. He's won a top 4 world title, so no one can take that away from him. But I can't see him winning another one. But
no,
I do. Boxing skill wise and IQ wise, I do rate him as a heavyweight go. But
I think him and Andy Lee work together well as well. I think Andy Lee's one of the best in the business for boxing IQ, and he's in Parker's camp a lot. So I think that's a good matchup, and they can sort of keep to a level together.
Yeah, I'd agree with that, 100%.
Arslan Makhmudov fighting Junior Anthony Wright. I mean, Makhmudov's going to be one to keep an eye on, isn't he? I mean, this guy carries serious power. Similar record to Wardley, 17 fights, 16 knockouts, but yeah, he's stopped Marius Vach. He's got a point win over Carlos Takam, who we'll come to further down the bill. Cantera, a very faded Samuel Peters, but he's stopped. But there's some good names on there for a guy who's had 17 fights.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Some solid, like, again, sort of like gatekeeper names, not to be disrespectful to them, sort of like not world level, but just sort of below, you know?
Yeah. But the right fights you need for a guy at that stage in his career.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Yeah, totally.
I mean, Anthony Wright's a blown up cruiserweight. He fought Babet Shubanov, I think, in 2016 from memory, from the memory of looking at box rec earlier anyway. So we've got So we've got Moses Atoma. He's fighting Istan Bernat, another journeyman.
I've seen that Moses. He'd done a 1-round demolition job on a guy on an. I can't remember what card it was on. Looked very good, but it was hard to judge him on sort of 1 round and a guy that he went through. So can't say I know too much about him other that he's highly touted and he looked good for the 1 round I see him, but we'll have to see as he steps up.
Someone's put GP's put Suchek versus Moyes in the comments, and if I was going to put money on anything, I think we would like to see Kudus versus Moyes. Last one, I think this is the pick of the undercard for me, right? When I was going through, this was like when I was making me notes for the show. This was just the bottom of the undercard, so maybe it'll be the first fight of the night, and it is. It's going to be a way to start the show. But Martin Bakole against Carlos Takam, because Bakole got that loss against Michael Hunter. Has been one of them guys. I think he trains with Billy Nelson up in Scotland, but one of them guys who just hasn't quite had the opportunities. But he's pulling off some, he's in some good upset where he's beat Tony Yoka out in France, gave him his first defeat.
Yeah.
At what point, Martin, do we see Bakole step up into becoming title level?
Yeah, I think it's just not. He's not got big backing behind him. That's why he had to go to France and fight Tony Yoka on the road, sort of thing. Funnily enough, when he fought Michael Hunter, I was on the bill. That was I was on the undercard. Yeah, funnily enough. And he was, I think, he was favoured to win that. They underrated Michael Hunter, but he's a good fighter, Martin Bakole. Very good fighter. It's just he's got a good guy knows boxing behind him. With that Billy Nelson, is it? Billy,
formerly Ricky Burns' trainer.
Yeah, but he needs like an Eddie Hearn or a Frank Warren or someone like that behind him to get these big fights, because he's not like a big enough name for someone, for say Anthony Joshua to fight. If Anthony Joshua was fighting Martin Bakole, be a good fight probably, but who's going to subscribe to PPV for that?
Yeah.
It's not going to do the numbers, is it? So he's kind of in a hard situation, the way I see it. But
it's a good name to have on the record, though. Obviously, you look at his record now. We've got Yoka, we've got obviously Takam coming up, but Michael Hunter. So he's getting the names.
I think he beat, didn't he? You know that was that in Poland? He went Mariusz Wach.
Yeah.
However, I think he beat him as the away guy.
Ihor Shabajuski, who was 10-0.
Yeah, like these are big, solid wins, and I think he's done them as the away fighter, most of them, which is impressive. So, yeah, he can obviously fight. It's just getting that breakthrough fight for him, where he becomes a big name.
Very much in the Who Needs Him club at the moment, Anthony Bakole.
Exactly, yeah. Exactly.
High risk, low reward.
Yeah.
Be a good fight though with Takam. Takam, we know what to expect. So it'll be tough for Bakole.
Yeah,
Be a
well,
good fight.
look, he should start coming up West Ham. Get some of the West Ham army behind him as soon as come and name him. Right, he's claiming to be Scottish or whatever, adopted Scottish. Come to West Ham. He comes sit
Yeah.
next to me. We'll have a great time.
Do you know what? If you got a fan like that, sort of like you've seen it in Leeds with like Warrington and Everton got behind Bellew and Nottingham Forest with Lee Woods. I mean, you do get it where like
Kevin
fighters can
Mitchell
draw
with
football
West
clubs
Ham.
for them. Yeah,
Yeah, a few
sold
years
out
ago,
to Park.
Yeah, it does happen. But yeah, I don't know. Most of them guys tend to actually be local guys, though, don't they? Like Lee
Yeah.
Wood's from Nottingham, Warrington is from Leeds. Yeah, but
Martin Bacoli could yet draw in Queen of the South.
yeah, why not? Why not? We'll bring. He can sit next to me. My season ticket's there. He can sit next to me.
Yeah.
Get him a double XL West Ham shirt, right? We're adopting.
I've got a 4XL one if he wants to take the nickname Dig Dave.
Oh, don't.
He can have one of them. All right, shall we roll on to the Friday night cards? History making as Amanda Serrano takes on Danila Ramos. First time a woman's fight has gone the men's championship distance, 12 3-minute rounds. I don't think we're going to see 12 3-minute rounds. I think, having looked at Ramos's record, 12-2, only one knockout. Serrano, 45 2-1. 30 knockouts. It's a fight I can see ending early. What's your stance in mind? Where do you stand on?
This is an interesting. It's an interesting one because I'm sure I saw the head of the WBC, is it Mauricio Suleiman, say that they won't sanction it over 12 threes. So is the world title on the line still?
It might be the WBC's not. I mean, Serrano holds everything, doesn't she? She holds all four major governing bodies plus the IBO. So it's there.
It's the other one.
So there are belts up the ground. It doesn't make a huge difference, I don't think. Anyway, I mean, in respects of the fact that women fighters are a lot more active, Serrano can easily get another defence in December, January time, depending on how she wants her Christmas to be, and get another. But at the same time, at the WBC, you're going to say, look, we don't want to be part of this event. Are they going to say, look, we don't want our cut of the money? I mean, they're business people,
true.
aren't they?
They're missing out on a big sanction fee if they if they discount themselves from it, and they are a business, so businesses have got to make money, haven't they? But yeah, I did see him come out and say that because they said they looked into with their medical advisory board and for health and safety. That's why they do women's over 10 2-minute rounds. I've always thought in the back of my head, no problem with women's boxing, but if they're going to do it, then why not do it over the same distance men do it?
I think there's an argument to say that if you're going to introduce it, you should have done it gradually. They've gone from 10-2s, so essentially 20 minutes of boxing with 9 1-minute intervals separating it, to then going to 36 minutes of boxing with 11. It's. Yeah. I think the logical step up was to probably go 12-2s, and then look at changing that kind of 24-minute into 8-3. So you've still got 24 minutes boxing, but you've got it, and then do it over time. But personally, I really like the fact that women's boxing is over 2-minute rounds because they do fight at a faster pace than the men do.
Yeah,
like there is a lot more, and also you do find in women's boxing as well that there isn't, because of the lack of testosterone. It's a little bit more technical. It is a little bit more for the purists. I do think. What do you think of that, Aaron?
When it first sort of become popular on the TV, I didn't really know what to expect. It's not that I was against it as such. I didn't really know what we were going to get. But I bloody love women's boxing. I think it's so enjoyable, and that's why I'm a little bit worried about the 12 threes. Just because we will lose that snap of excitement, but maybe we might see more quality. Because a lot of them can be a bit too frantic, and it does just turn out with two girls in there just swinging at each other because they've only got 2 minutes to get the job done. So it might benefit technically.
Yeah.
When women's boxing first come out, we was being treated to like Katie Taylor beating up the ring card girls, weren't we? There wasn't the rivalries that exist now, because now women's boxing's had a chance to grow and flourish. And now we're sitting here earlier, we're talking about Caris Artenstall and Raven Chapman being a potentially great fight, because we've seen these careers get built, and we've now got the opportunity to, and it will grow further. I think next year we probably will see Lauren Price and Natasha Jonas, and that'll be one that we can all get excited about.
Definitely, and as well, I'm back to Serrano. I'm surprised the fight, the girl that Serrano's in with is the one that they're going to trial the 12 by 3 minute rounds with, because it ain't going the distance. It would have made more sense to have had a closer matched fight to actually be able to see out the 12 by 3 minute rounds. Because what are we going to learn if Serrano blasts her out in three rounds? We're not seeing them over the championship distance, whereas that's what we need to see. So they can feedback how it is.
Yeah, I think that would then be the case of like having the extra minute on each round is giving more opportunities for knockouts. But I don't see it being, because it can go the other way. You know, suddenly it can come like, oh, we've got to survive for 3 minutes around, and instead of that all action kind of gung ho style that I think we get from female boxing currently, we may see a far more conservative, as you were saying, like,
it's a totally
we got to survive.
Yeah, it's a totally different fight over 3 minutes in around 2 minutes. It makes a hell of a difference. I'm someone who's done both, but can be hard to explain sometimes. But it's even 10 threes to 10 twos is such a different fight. You know, so much can happen in that other minute. You know, so yeah, it's a massive change, and to go straight from 12 threes from 10 twos is a huge difference. Huge. Like you, I agree with what you were saying earlier. To go 8 threes or 10 threes first might have been a more logical step, but this is what we got. Maybe they're doing it because they know it's it's not going to make it out of 6 rounds or something anyway. But yeah, it's an interesting one, definitely, and it'd be interesting to see if the WBC have stuck to not sanctioning it or letting it go ahead for their belt.
I can't see them not. I just think at some point they'll have to, because it will. At some point, women's boxing will go over 12 threes. They either get on board with it now, or they lose the money and they look like they're behind the times when it eventually becomes the norm. It just doesn't make sense, I think, for anyone for that to happen. Chief support on the cards, unless anyone's got anything else to add, is we're getting 16-1 Antonio Vargas fighting the ghost of Hernan Marquez. There was a time when Marquez was a genuinely world level fighter. You know, I remember him winning with the likes of Anito Donaire, Juan Francisco Estrada, Brian Valoria. Now he's kind of become a name for the record, I think, for upcoming fighters. I think we're going to see a Vargas comfortable win here, aren't we? We're not going to see anything. We're not going to see Marquez rolling back the clock at this stage of his career.
Not likely. You never know. He can punch a bit, but no, I think that's what we're going to see. I agree with you there.
I think it's the classic fight, isn't it? It's the old guard changing over. he's on the downgrade, Vargas on the upgrade, and I think it's just one of those. It's a good record. It's a good name on the
Right.
record. Good name on the record, and Vargas can go do what he does, and there's no disgrace in losing.
No.
All right, on to Saturday night. Oshaki Foster, great name. Defends his world title, his WBC super featherweight against Eduardo Hernandez. I mean, this is going to be I expect a classic puncher meets boxer affair. Oshaki 20-2, 11 knockouts. Hernandez 34-1, 31 knockouts. I think we might be in for a decent fight.
It's definitely an interesting one. I can't say I've seen much of him to sort of judge him that well. I've only seen what he's done on paper. That's me holding my hands up, being honest about that one. Have you guys seen much of him?
I can't say I've seen either of these guys.
No.
I mean, Foster won his world title against Ray Vargas in his last fight. Vargas at the time was 36-0.
Very impressive.
Vargas was one of those. Yeah, Vargas was a solid fighter, albeit quite a boring one.
Yeah, to be honest, to break the fight down though, stylistically, I haven't watched much of either of them to sort of give you my sort of prediction. It's a good fight, and that Vargas win was, an outstanding win. So, but yeah, I haven't got too much I can give you on that one. Hold my hands up.
I think they're both going to go in there, both try and hit each other, and one of them could win.
Yeah.
That's what I've got for you on that one.
Yeah.
Aaron's going for a job at the zone at this rate, isn't he? on the undercard, so with the big punches, also a super fair. And I've got a fair disappointing fights that we've got Eduardo Nunes against Oscar Ensandon. Nunes 24-1, 24 knockouts. And when I looked at this, my first thought was, just based purely on his record, this is a fight I'd love to see with Lee Woods up at super feather. I think a guy who's 24-1 with 24 knockouts and Lee Wood are going to go and have one hell of a war. Although I suspect the winner of this will fight the winner of Oshaki Foster, Eduardo Hernandez.
One thing, like, you're right, that would be a fun fight. One thing about Lee Wood, he can bang. I mean, he was losing that Josh Warrington fight. In my eyes, he was lost nearly every round.
Yeah,
I thought it was a really good performance from Warrington. He was beating him to the punch, sharper than him. I thought, is the weight affecting him? Is he a bit sort of sluggish? And that weight cut that he done, they talked a lot about his weight. And then was it 7th round? Bingo, boom, turned it around like anything. And he's going to carry that power up at super feather. So that, definitely would be a fight I'd like to see. Whether it happens or not, I don't know.
What's your thoughts, Aaron?
I think it all depends on, in terms of that fight, Lee Wood, where he's going to go from here on, because he's sort of caught in the crossroads. Is he still good enough to fully warrant a massive world title fight, or does he sort of stay on the top domestic level?
You mean, like, does he get a domestic sort of world title super featherweight fight next?
Yeah. As opposed to fighting the American guys that are sort of making their names.
Yeah. I suppose it depends. A massive offer could come in from America where it's too good to turn down, but they've been speaking about wanting him to do a fight at Nottingham Forest, didn't they?
Yeah, with Warrington, funnily enough, the rematch perhaps.
The remake,
So-
yeah,
Could well be his last fight when you think of it.
yeah, he could do that and ride off in the sunset.
Mm.
I mean, it's going to be a British title fight. It's going to be Joe Cordina, but Cordina's obviously fighting in Monte Carlo, a fight I'm sure we'll preview next week.
Yeah,
Those promos on DAZN that kept popping up of him dressed like someone's gran and repeatedly winking at cameras. I mean, that's not a way to sell fights, is it really?
no. They need to take a leaf out of Misfits books on how to sell a fight.
Mm.
They need whoever
Just go WWE.
promotion for them, get into these professional boxing. Promotion side of Misfits is brilliant, I think.
Oh, it was I thought that Logan Paul and Dylan Dennis one was probably one of the best promotions I've seen. Dylan Dennis, excellent on the keyboard, terrible at fighting.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
I couldn't believe it. Like, all I knew was this guy was Conor McGregor's mate, and he had some kickboxing background. And I thought, I know this guy's gonna have a war here. And then all he did was run around with his hands across his face like this. Like,
yeah.
oh, it was bad. But the build up was brilliant. Like
That's
he
what I'm
certainly-
saying.
He earned
That's
his
what I'm saying.
promotion.
Imagine like Lee Wood fights Joe Cordina next, and they have that kind of promotion. Imagine how much that'd sell, and then people watching two fantastic fighters as well. But yeah,
I think it'd take away from the boxing purity. I think that's the trouble.
yeah, it
sure.
would, but it wouldn't in the ring. I don't think once
No.
they actually start fighting, the boxing purity will be there. And do you have to move with the times with this promotion and all this social media stuff to sort of keep up with the audiences?
I think if
So-
anyone does, it'll be Eddie Hearn that starts implementing it first because he loves a pound note. So if Eddie makes a move for it, then I think it will catch on.
Then yeah, we need Big Eddie to get involved.
You're desperate for it, aren't you?
I think it'd be fun. Yeah, if it gives more opportunities to more boxers and makes the British boxing scene better, then as someone who's in the British boxing scene in
Why
a much
not?
smaller way than these guys that we're talking about, whole man's up to that. But it's better all round, so I'm all for it. Yeah.
Just the last fight on the undercard that I made note of was Justice Haney against Andrew Tabiti. Now I remember Tabiti being a cruiserweight prospect under Floyd Mayweather. Had a couple of good wins, lost to Dorticus, Yorniel Dorticus, and then sort of faded into obscurity. I completely forgot. I just looked at his box record. He's had one fight. This is a heavyweight. He's had one fight previously at heavyweight, a win against James Wilson. And that was in Saudi Arabia, just to tie it off on the Joshua Usyk undercard. But it's hard to see a bit. I mean, that was just a nice bit of nostalgia for me, I thought. I've got nothing really to add on the fight. It looks as though Haney, he's probably 7-0, 4 knockouts. He's probably bringing Tabiti in to be a name to give him a little bit of recognition, that little bit of respect. But I suppose if he's not careful, Tabiti's more than capable of giving him a hard night's work.
Well, if he was once under Mayweather, you'd like to think he must have had some sort of potential. You know, he must have shown Mayweather something, because Mayweather surely just wouldn't sign any idiot. You know, otherwise he'd sign me. You know. But yeah, the other guy, the 7-0 guy, I can't say that I've seen him, in all honesty.
No, I never heard of him.
No. So
Until now.
yeah.
But this is the good part about boxing, though. where you get together, you have a little look at BoxRec. You don't quite know what's going on, but you can find new favourites and follow their career from very early stages. Look that way. Not everybody knows every single boxer on the planet, so seeing these 4-0 guys, watching the cards, sort of gets you invested, and you start to notice them on later shows they do, and become fan favourites.
Yeah.
I just want to point out, just because this is in the comments, someone's put a football channel talking about boxing. The whole aim of this is that obviously this is week 1, this is episode 1, is that eventually over the coming weeks we will be able to bring in more West Ham sort of boxing fans, some more local areas. We can give promotions to like local amateur cards and so on. It just so happened that this week there's a lot of professional boxing to talk about, and as far as I can see, next weekend there isn't anything too local. So that's why there's a boxing program on a West Ham channel. The two do go hand in hand. A lot of West Ham, a lot of football fans will generally, I think, have boxing or regard boxing as a second or third sport. So there is an interest for it. That's why this is here. But I'm sorry to the guy in the Philippines that isn't enjoying this. You never know. One day you'll have the next Manny Pacquiao, and maybe you'll come back.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure we can talk about West Ham for the future if he wants to tune in again. Though I know I can talk about West Ham all day long. So yeah.
After yesterday, who wants to talk about West Ham? Come on.
Well, this is true. This is true. Yeah, it was definitely a game to write off.
I think my thoughts are online anyway, so I've got nothing to add on that point. But hopefully, we can certainly build a career or build a platform anyway for West Ham fighters to come together, and West Ham boxing fans, and we can really kind of sort of promote our own,
Yeah, that'd be fantastic. Yeah. The West Ham family coming together, supporting the boxers, the football team. That's it. That's what it's all about.
Right. It's coming up at 10 o'clock. Have either of you guys got anything else you want to add to the show for this week?
No, Martin, could we have a reminder of all your socials, mate?
Oh yeah, Martin.
My Instagram is at MHBoxing, M for Martin, MHBoxing. My Twitter is at Martin Hillman, and Facebook just Martin Hillman. You'll find me on there. I'm on all 3 of those socials regularly. So yeah. Anyone want to follow the journey? I'm always posting stuff like behind the scenes training, what it's like doing it around a full-time job. Just try and give a bit of realness to it, and and there's a lot of West Ham stuff on there as well. So yeah, that's my social media is basically boxing and West Ham. So if you like that, feel free to follow.
Do you want to plug your social media while you're on here, Aaron?
No one cares about me.
No one cares about mine either. mine is just bad things that happen in my life. That seems to be my Twitter experience. All right, guys, we'll wrap it up here. Thanks to everyone who's been part of it, who's commented, who's offered questions. And we'll be back next Monday to review the Fury Ngannou extravaganza, and to look back on Amanda Serrano, Shaki Foster, and preview the following week. Joe Cordina at Monte Carlo. We'll preview that next week. And Martin will give us an update on his training and how his preparation's going for his big title fight at York Hall.
Will do. Look forward to it.
Right, awesome. Thank you very much, guys.
Enjoy it,
boys.
guys. Thank you.
Cheers, guys. Thank you. Bye.
See you in a bit, lads.
Bye-bye.